I'm really excited to be here today to talk to you all about effective communications. It's really important to be a good communicator. How many people have sat through a presentation exactly like that? How many people have given a presentation? I've sat through so many of those things, and I don't know if any of you are like me, but when I'm sitting watching someone who speaks like that, very shortly after they start, I start doing things like taking vacations to the Kroger store in my mind. I eat milk and eat eggs and eat butter, or off to Tahiti if possible. And every now and then I check back in to make sure I haven't missed anything. It can be really painful. And so one of the things that I'm going to talk about today is being a more effective communicator. There is an expectation when someone gets up to speak to you that they're going to be prepared. They will have done their homework, and they're going to prepare, and that's what you expect. I'm sure that as you were coming into this thing, everybody was saying, geez, I hope this guy's good. No one wants you to be bad when you're a presenter. No one wants you to get up there and suck. They want you to get up and be good. And so your job is to do your preparation and have all your materials, make sure your PowerPoint works and all those sorts of things. One of the things that I learned in teaching actors to be good improv actors is communication. Improv is all about communicating really clearly, making sure people understand what's going on, making sure that people are listening. There are 5 things that we can do to be better communicators. And the first one is something that I call active listening. Sometimes when I'm watching somebody, I find myself not actively listening. I take off to Kroger because I'm not paying attention anymore. They're not engaging me for some reason. In order to become better communicators, we need to learn to say yes to people, and not when someone comes in and says, I want to double my income. You don't necessarily have to say yes to that. But part of improv, part of good communications is learning to actively listen and be agreeable. Avoid denial. At least hear what someone has to say. Sometimes you can kill a good idea. How many people have sat in a meeting and somebody, maybe a new person to your company, has said, hey, I have a suggestion for something, and somebody else says, no, we've been through that before, we're not interested, let's move on. Maybe this person had a great idea, but because you shut them down without giving them even an opportunity to present something, you might have killed that creative idea. And what else did you do when you said no to that person? Anybody know? They're never going to speak up ever again. They've been shut down, and they're done. They're not going to contribute anymore. I'll go in, I'll punch the clock, I'll do my job, I'll go home at the end of the day, I'll take my paycheck. Why not, in your businesses, in your organizations, foster some of that? Yes, let's listen to what you have to say. Doesn't necessarily mean we're going to do something with it, but you never know when one yes might lead to a creative solution to another problem. So we're going to play a real quick game called Yes And. Real simple. The way this works is I'm going to make a statement. Right after I get done making my statement, Carrie is going to say the first thing that comes to her mind. But the first thing she's going to say is yes and immediately. So I'll say something, she'll say yes and she's going to make a connection to what I said. Doesn't matter what connection you make, you're just going to add to the story, okay? So this morning coming over here, I had a flat tire.
Yes, and a cop stopped me.
Yes, and I had to wait forever for the valet parking.
Yes, and I got lost walking over here on the way from the parking garage.
Yes, and I overslept, so I got here late, so there wasn't any wait for valet parking. Yes, and when I put my shoe on, I got a run in my pantyhose.
Yes, and I hate it when I get a run in my pantyhose. Okay, you can sit down. It's a fun game, but did you notice what happened as people what were they doing as they were playing this game? Everybody was paying really close attention. Everybody was actively listening. Now think about this in a corporate situation or a business situation. Somebody comes up with an idea, and the next thing you know, someone else is springing off of that idea and saying, hey, what about this? What about this idea? And suddenly you're developing new things rather than This is our agenda. Agendas for meetings are great, but sometimes if you can just say, no, we'll have an agenda, but we'll be a little flexible. Let's give the opportunity to hear other people and not say no to things right away. So we got some very interesting things developed. Now, if we'd gone around a couple more times or gone to a different table, you'd be amazed at how far this game can take you and how far your creative thinking can go. It frees you up. And I can't imagine anybody in this room whose company can't benefit from some creative thinking. Even the most, no offense to accountants. I don't think accounting is the most exciting job that I could ever do, but I'll tell you what, if you can foster this sort of thinking and listening in your organization, you'd be surprised even in something like accounting. You can find new solutions to problems that maybe have been stymieing you for a long time. Trust and support is another big thing that we do in improv. When I'm doing improv, if I have a couple actors on stage and they're doing a scene and they start to get stuck or they start to have a problem, one of the actors who's not in the scene, they have to be paying attention to that scene. They have to really be actively listening because they might need to step in and help that scene work a little better, maybe bring in a punchline or bring in some information to move the scene in a different direction, kind of like we did with the yes and game. So I expect my actors to support the other actors who are on stage. And the actors who are on stage, they realize that if I'm up here and I get stuck, I know that someone is going to come in from the side and help me out. Trust and support. In your organizations, in your businesses, maybe you give presentations to potential clients. Wouldn't it be great to have your group go in prepared? I see this a lot. Companies will go into a presentation and the first time they're all meeting to do a presentation is when they get to that company to present. They haven't met at all beforehand to prepare anything, to work on handoffs and things like that. Or work on, if somebody is presenting and they get stuck, somebody else could step in and help them out. They're meeting for the first time when they go into that presentation. If you have the opportunity to kind of present ahead of time, you can realize, I need to watch what the other people in my presentation group are doing because I might need to step in and support them. And they might need my support. They're trusting that I'm going to be there to help them out. When you foster this sort of thinking in presentations, it's amazing what a difference those presentations make. They become more exciting because everybody's engaged. Rather than, I've done my part, I'm done, and they walk off. I don't know if any of you saw, I have a camera in the back. Anybody who presents on a regular basis, I recommend you get a little camera and you put it in a tripod and you put it in the back of the room every single time you give a presentation. And watch yourself. See how the audience sees you as you present. If you're going to present and you want to be an effective presenter, videotape yourself and watch yourself. See you as the audience sees you. And look for those areas where you have trouble. I'm going to give you a story that you're going to tell me, but you're going to tell it one word at a time. You can't say 2 words. And the sentences all have to make sense. Okay? It's not just random words. You're actually telling a story. So you really need to listen. And when you're speaking, we'll have the microphone, so this helps. But you need to make sure that everybody in the circle can hear you. All right? Now, anybody have a favorite fairy tale growing up? Cinderella. Oh, one of my favorites. I love Cinderella. We're going to have this group tell us the story of Cinderella, but they're not going to tell us the regular story of Cinderella. They're going to tell us the backstory. Something was going on with Cinderella and that prince and those wicked stepsisters that we never heard when we were learning this fairy tale when we were kids. So I don't want to hear the story we know. I want to hear the story we never heard.
Cinderella
Started
Two.
sweat a lot.
As she
encountered Kroger's
Door
and
Then
she
met
a
wonderful prince.
charming
Forever.
started
falling
A lot.
over.
Then.
He decided
To.
fall.
After.
She
Left.
the
Ball.
then she ran
Naked.
Okay, we can stop right there. You can have a seat. Good job. Good job. Excellent job. Interesting story. Got really interesting when we found out that Cinderella was naked. What was happening as they were playing the game? Did you notice some things happening? Anybody? We were sweating. And I have it on tape so you can watch it later. It was sweat all over again. Yes?
They started to prepare.
Start a little bit of preparing. What happens when you prepare in a game like this? What happens?
You get all messed up because the person ahead of you doesn't think the way you do.
Right, you get kind of messed up because you're thinking, oh, I'm going to say this when it gets to me, and maybe the story didn't go that way. How often have you been in a corporate setting, a meeting, a business, some sort of a meeting with your organization, and you go in there and you say, I'm going to talk about this today. I'm going to get this off my chest, and that meeting never gets to that direction. Sometimes you have to shelve your own idea and say, you know what, I'll deal with this later. The group is going in this direction. Trust and support. Working as a team. I'm going to support the rest of the group. I'm going to keep my idea for later. Maybe I'll talk to the person who's facilitating the meeting later. We can get it put on the agenda. I'm going to have to let go of my personal agenda for the greater goal of the group. Anybody else notice anything as they were playing this game? Or you playing the game, anybody notice anything? Yes?
Throw out like filler words, not anything that was real descriptive, and to, she, went.
Yes, very good. As you were playing the game, how many people had to say an and, a the, an a? How many people had to say a little word? 1, 2. How'd you feel? This is great. Whenever I see people play this game, they do this every single time. They'll say, it'll come to them and they'll go, the. Crappy word. But that little word, the to, the a, gets you to the naked Cinderella. The Kroger. Those little words are like little ideas. We tend to edit ourselves a lot, which is not bad. It's not a bad idea to edit yourself. But if you say a little word, you might feel like, oh, this word doesn't mean anything, but it led to the bigger word. Same thing in a corporate setting. Sometimes you think, oh, you know what, my idea is not important. I'm not even going to mention it. It's like that little word. It's like that a, or the or the and. It's not important. I'm not going to say it. But maybe without your thought or your idea, maybe if you spoke up and said something at the appropriate time, not trying to jam your agenda down somebody else's throat, it might lead to someone else saying, hey, you know what, I was just thinking about that. We ought to investigate that. And that's where creative ideas develop. That's where new things happen. If you don't edit, if you just say, you know what, I'm not going to judge, I'm not going to edit, I'm not going to make it my own judgment on what I'm going to say, I'm going to put it out there, and I know that when I say this idea or present this thought, that the rest of my group is going to support me because we're all about trust and support. So I'm going to put that idea forward, and maybe it will lead to something. Maybe it'll be a dead end, but at least you got it out there. And I'm telling you, there are a lot of times when just that little idea sparks a lot of different things. I keep the group small. They're like 18 to 25. That way, no one can hide in the corner. I'm not doing it. I'll just pretend I don't exist. Everybody gets a chance to work. And I also like to do all of my trainings, whatever they are, as a master class. So everybody watches everybody else. You can learn so much by watching somebody else present or do a game. When you watch people doing these games, people will go, I'm not going to do that. That didn't work. I'll try something else. So they're great for team building, problem solving. Thank you very much and have a great rest of the day.